Welcome, everyone. It is time again for Real Talk Food Safety with Jill and Tia. We are
Hello,
so happy to have you
everyone.
here.
Yes, so excited you're here.
I know, Tia, you would think, so what, this is what, our 10th episode or so? I love it
Yes,
because this virtual life, we still haven't quite figured out how to all say hello without like talking over each other.
I know. You know, it's like one of those things that's never going to be solved.
We keep trying, and that's okay. We're still going to be here anyways,
Yes,
greeting people.
absolutely. Absolutely. So we are
Yeah.
super excited for everyone to be here. We look forward to seeing your comments, as well as your feedback and your perspectives, because that's really what Real Talk is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we go back and we check all the comments. So if you're here, hashtag live. We love knowing that. If you're here after the live event, use hashtag replay. That'll help us go, yes, this was valuable. Let's look at this again. And with that in
Absolutely.
mind, as you find topics where you're like, I wish I knew more about this, or I wish people would talk about this, let us know because that's what Real Talk is all about.
Absolutely. We want to make sure we're talking about the things that you're dealing with, that
Mhm.
you're struggling with, that you're celebrating. We want to have those conversations and we want to learn from you. We want to share your knowledge because that's really how we grow, right? That's what we
Mhm.
mean by better together.
Yeah. And speaking of celebrating, like if you're joining us, sometimes we start with like where are you joining us from? But today, how about what are you celebrating?
Oh, I love that.
Because with daylight savings, it's feeling like sunshine and warm in Minnesota and I am celebrating. It's going to even hit like 45 today. I can't wait.
Oh, wow. That's like a heat wave right
I
now
know.
for you. I don't know what temperature. I'm looking out my window. It's definitely really sunny. I'm thankful that we did not get a lot of snow over the weekend. So we were able to get out and do some things. So yeah, I mean, let me think about something that I'm celebrating. Well, I don't know if a lot of people know, but I'm expecting my first child in less than a month. So we, we are celebrating that. We're celebrating our baby girl. Her name is going to be Tiana. And we've been decorating her nursery and getting prepared. And so we're super excited about that. And so that's definitely a celebration happening in my household.
Yeah, we are totally excited. T and I've been talking about doing like the baby countdown. So now that we've shared it, I guess we have a couple weeks we can share the baby countdown.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. Well, welcome. Let's see. I see Nikita.
Hi,
Hello, and Sal and
hi, Sal.
Stephanie. It's nice to have you with us today.
Yes. And
And
Stephanie, of course, Stephanie was a part of our panel last week. So if you did not see that panel, please check it out on our YouTube channel.
yes,
She's absolutely great. So thank you for being here, Stephanie.
yes. Well, and if it is your first time joining us, we are Jill and Tia. We really are the go to team when it comes to leadership, coaching, culture with food safety and quality. We are different than other leadership programs or coaching and consulting because we've lived it. We've been in these shoes. We've been in your shoes, not the literal ones, but right. We've done a lot, and one of the things that we are passionate about is helping support others in this industry because we know what it's like to feel like you're out there on your own or having to just figure it out. We know what it's like to want to build connections so that you can learn more. And that's what we facilitate here so that you can have the job you want, you can have the food safety culture that you want. And we know it starts with you. We all
Absolutely.
we all get to be that owner, have that ownership of what it looks like. And we want to support you being able to make it what you want it and need it to be.
Absolutely. We go past compliance. There's a lot of clients that's looking for that compliance level, and we help them get there. But we have those conversations around really your food safety culture is built on strategies, it's built on leadership, it's built on things that's above compliance, and really going above and beyond and making sure that your people are really clear on food safety and quality, why it's important, and that really leads us to our topic today of
Mhm.
integrated leadership. because we know that food safety and quality culture is not just about the food safety and quality team. Where if that was the case, I was saying this yesterday, if food safety and quality professionals, we were the ones to say like whether or not we have a great food safety culture and people were looking at just our teams, most of the time, like we're at an A plus, right? And like that's why we lead the audits, right? Like, we know how to have the conversations. We know what paperwork to pull. We understand, how to work along with compliance, whether it's from a regulatory standpoint or even, an auditing scheme standpoint. But in reality, food safety culture integrates all parts of the business and all functions. And we have to be integrated leaders in our business in order for us to have a sustainable food safety and quality culture.
Yeah. And I think that integration is one of the elements. Once again, I wish I would have known earlier when I started in this field, because it's more than just, I'm going to come in and build programs. The programs, right, are about the integration. And if we just think people will adopt them, I think we've all probably been there. They don't just go, oh, I can't wait for this new policy to come out and these new regulations. And, oh, this is the best, Tia. We love it.
Right.
They're like, really another thing on top of what we're already doing. But that's why this integrated leader discussion is so important today. And, I'm super excited about it too, because this week we had our boot camp start. And that's all about how do we help leaders integrate into the business and really get the clarity and confidence they need to step into being that next level leader in food safety and quality. So I'll certainly be, hopefully we'll have a few people join us, but they'll certainly be getting the link to this today.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, mainly because it's everything we've been doing over the last couple of weeks, right? Within Catalyst. But you're absolutely right. Those leadership skills, building those leadership skills is so important. And being able to influence, across the aisle and up and down the organization is so important. And we really tackle that in our early technical leader boot camp, where people are really developing those skills from a technical standpoint, where they can really have those conversations, use their technical backgrounds in order to influence the organization, and really, build food safety and quality as these business partners, which ultimately leads to an integrated food safety and quality team, and a sustainable food safety and quality culture.
Yeah. And for you and for the leaders, for us, right? It's easier. It's fun. It's more exciting. Like you really like get pumped to come to work because you've built this foundation so that all the other parts fall into place, or at least are a lot easier to do.
Right. So. Exactly. So that's why we're talking about integrated leaders today, and really how you, as someone that's in food safety and quality, or if you're listening and you're not in food safety and quality, this is also really relevant to you because in your role, you also need to be an integrated leader. Leaders don't get things done just working within their functions. And we've all worked with those people that only talk to their function, only look in their narrow scope, and they really don't want to branch out. People really don't see them as leaders in the organization. So it's critical. It's critical to be an integrated leader. So we're super excited about this topic and we're ready to jump in.
Yeah. And, Tia, as we jump in, I just want to share with the group, because when, we brainstorm on ideas and, get feedback from you, the audience. And when Tia brought up integrated leader, I was kind of like, what do you mean by integrated leader? Yes. And so I love that we're diving into this further, because I think there can be so many different definitions around it. But the one that we're working on today and kind of talking more about, I loved, because as you were talking about it and some of the experience you had, I was like, yeah, no, I didn't approach it that same way. So once again, information I wish I would have considered more earlier in my tenure, in my career, to be more effective.
Yeah. So. And, I was just lucky enough to have, a manager that was really integrated into the organization. Most people knew her name, even outside of food safety and quality. And I was really grateful that she was able to share that information with me. And then, for people that know me, knows I like to meet people and understand what people do. So, it came somewhat natural to me. But as I've mentored people and helped people develop in their career, either because they directly reported into me or they were a mentee of mine, I've helped share this type of knowledge because I think it's crucial to being successful in your role.
Mm-hmm. So I think,
yes.
So we started off with what is an integrated leader? And I loved it that we were like, it's someone who leads regardless of their function, the area, the topic, or the audience.
Absolutely.
That's big.
And those areas, your function, your area, your topic, your audience, right? That doesn't limit you from being a leader. So people see you, even if they're in the maintenance function, even if they're in engineering, even if they're in finance, they see you as a leader, and someone that's a champion of your subject matter expertise or of your function. They know that they can come to you with questions, but they also understand that you understand and can lead in their area as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important area because, right, usually we volunteer to lead in our subject matter areas where we're experts, and we'll raise our hand to go, yeah, I'd love to dive into an environmental monitoring program, or I'd love to lead, what we're going to do on foreign material. But how often do we step up and go, yeah, I want to help like minimize downtime for our production team.
Mm-hmm.
I want to step in and I want to help with, pick something else, reduce the cycle time for new products.
Right.
We may be part of that, but leading and how we lead in there is part of this integrated leader topic today.
Absolutely. And so when we think about integrated leaders, who are they leading? They're really leading anyone in the organization. That may be from the CEO to a frontline team member. And again, it's regardless of function, area, topic, or audience. So like an example that I think about in my career, I was having a conversation early on in my role, and I had learned a lot about our warehouse management system. And again, it's because I wanted to understand how logistics was working, how does that interact with food safety and quality, what their priorities are. I probably was working on some things around lot tracking and what's posted on the ingredients coming in and how do we want to change that documentation. So I learned a lot about our warehouse management system, even outside of what is expected around food safety and quality. And, I was talking to someone that had just joined the company maybe a year ago, and she was really trying to figure out what the warehouse management system can do. And we were talking, and she said, "Oh, I don't think it can do that." I'm like, "Oh, it absolutely can do it." And it was a logistics function, and it's just something that I've kind of picked up because I've integrated myself into the logistics function, so that they understand how important food safety and quality is and how we interact with one another. So I was able to teach her something with the warehouse management system that has nothing to do with my role at all, because I integrated myself there.
And I don't think it's a coincidence that integrated has a root of like integrity, and one version of integrity is about being whole. And how do you honor that, whether regardless of function or regardless of like the audience and people that you're leading? And so I think that really plays into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would love to hear from the audience. Do you feel that you are an integrated leader, or do you feel like you need to become an integrated leader to be successful in your role? And what things are holding you back? Because we're going to talk about that a little later on what's really a barrier to becoming an integrated leader. Mm-hmm. So please add your comments.
Yeah, but I think it's good to start with like, how do you actually step into that? And Tia, I want to find out kind of your experience, because you've even alluded to that you kind of had some different opportunities, and a leader that really kind of mentored in this integrated leadership space.
Yeah. Yes.
What was that like?
Yeah. So I think the big piece of becoming an integrated leader is really to show your leadership style and to show your leadership capabilities again, outside of your area, outside of your function. So this could look like touching base with other team members outside of your function, other leaders outside of food safety and quality. And it could look a lot of different ways. So I think the big thing that people think about is having one-on-one time with your operations directors or your finance directors, or, anyone in between from the top, to the bottom of the org chart, right? People think about that. Or even if you're working in a facility, making rounds with your team, but also making sure that you touch base with any other floor support. So I made sure that I talked with every single operator in my area, where I went down. How are you? Good morning. What are you working on? What issues are you having? We rolled out this program last week. How is that going? Do you see any barriers? How can we make this easier for you? Do you understand the importance of it? So having those type of conversations, but even personal conversations with them so you can get to know them. And so now they know, oh, okay, I know who Tia is. I can bring up issues with her. She will help me solve them. And at that moment, I'm now integrated into that team. And then other things that people don't think about is leading from like a social campaign standpoint. So, I became involved in our social campaigning. We early on in my career, my company campaigned with United Way. So, I joined a committee, I helped with the kickoff. And so I'm having those opportunities to talk with people that I might not necessarily talk with every day because I don't support their area. But doing that type of work allows me to meet other people in my facility, talk to them about something outside of our roles, but again, use this opportunity to find out, well, what are you working on? Where do you struggle from a food safety and quality standpoint? What are your priorities and what are you focusing on? And how does that relate to people in my team? So having those type of conversations, as well as being a part of employee resource groups, policy teams outside of food safety and quality, all of those things help you integrate into your organization, where you have the opportunity to show your leadership skills.
And I think that's, Nikita brings up, right, being in food safety and quality, just the nature of how we touch so many parts of the business really kind of sets us up to be an integrated leader. Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked here and even in our program about the relationship building and being very intentional and being proactive in those relationships so that you can be integrated. So Tia, I love those examples of like, just even right on the floor. I loved when like I would have people that would come up to me when I was like, going somewhere in the plant and they'd be like, hey, I got a question for you. Or, hey, can we do this? And I think those are some of the things that as food safety quality leaders that we get the opportunity to do that's very different than others. And so being able to help, like, how do we help foster that so that we can help people move forward? We can, it's either helping them empower them, or maybe sometimes it's redirecting them, or sometimes it's supporting them. But what does that look like?
Yeah.
And I think one of the aspects that you've brought up with this that was, that I hadn't considered nearly as much, fostering that to kind of help move things and be a leader, but also the things outside the function. And just how that can give this whole new perspective in your relationship. So instead of always being driven about, well, let's talk about, rework or downtime or, a new program, it was, well, let's talk about how we work together for, like you said, United Way. Or I remember a time, and it was, our team actually went and volunteered at a local food bank for the afternoon. And the reason it stands out is because we got to have completely different conversations. We got to have this shared experience that we didn't really talk about work. It just deepened our relationship. And I think that's the part that helped transfer over to help us be a better leader and better teammates when we got back to work.
Yeah, Absolutely. And people don't think about those opportunities as, that's helping me in my work and that's helping me in leadership. But in reality, we know that leadership is all about relationships. It's all about how strong your relationships are, because that ultimately leads to how much of an influence you can have on your organization, right? So, I that's one thing. And honestly, I didn't really think about it early on. It was just something where it's like, oh, I really would love to do this. But then I noticed, okay, well, I'm participating early on things that I'm passionate about outside of food safety and quality. And then I find myself, oh, I need to talk to that person about food safety and quality, about a program that I'm rolling out. Because like Nikita said, most of our programs, someone else outside of our function is doing that role, right? And we need other partners to be a part of the programs to even make them happen. So I found myself, oh, I need to talk to this person about this project. And it's like, oh, I already know them because we volunteered together and they know me from that aspect. And so it helps. And when you talk about make your job easier, it makes my job easier to be able to go in and say, hey, Jill, nice to see you again. Like, we had a great time, and I would love to get your perspective on this program that I'm really looking to roll out that's going to impact your people. So, I really didn't see it early on, but now I know where it's like those things help. It helps build those relationships and help you really be an integrated leader in your organization.
Yeah. And Jeanette, I love what you put in there as well, is that, like you said, look, personally, I've had this wonderful managers that practice it, whether they knew it or not. And I think that is really powerful, because when you start on this path and you're intentional in doing it, it almost just keeps going on its own because you're building those relationships. And yes, you still need to be intentional about it. But the impact that it can have, just whether you're intentional or it happens because you're just a natural at it, like it's a natural at it, but it impacts so many people. And we probably don't even recognize the reach that we have and that influence. And so, you know, that's why I think really being intentional in being a leader and an integrated leader really helps sets us our function apart, and why we're different than so many other functions.
Right. I love too what Jeanette, she's talking about her manager. It's so important that if you are a manager of people, that you are integrated into your organization and have those connections, because that helps the people that you are directly managing, and who you are indirectly managing that's in your line of succession. Because, I mean, I've also had those managers where it's like you're trying to get work done and, you need to reach across the aisle, but your manager is not connected to the rest of the organization at all. So no one has aligned on priorities. No one else understands what food safety and quality strategies look like, or what we're doing that might impact them. Like, the upper levels haven't even had that conversation. That makes your job really difficult, because you're trying to talk to people at your level, right? And you're trying to tell them that we need to roll out this program. This is a priority. But in reality, their manager hasn't talked about it at all, because there's no integration happening above you. So if you are a manager of people, and you are responsible for food safety and quality at a higher level, it's so important that you master these skills, because it makes the jobs easier for the people who are executing and the people that need to reach across the aisle to other people that have other priorities going on, right? So it's so important as a manager to be integrated.
It is. And sorry, I'm laughing over here because as you're doing that, I'm like, oh, that totally happened somewhere where I worked. It was hilarious because I used to think about it like, well, I mean, I knew we were kind of like the black sheep, kind of over here on the side, which probably isn't the best term, but right, we were out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
And we knew, we could feel that, because, the reason was, well, we have space, so your team can be over here in this other location. But it was also because we were traveling a lot, right? We would go to different facilities. So the way it was presented is, well, you're not in the office that much anyways. But we felt what that was like, because it wasn't just that we were, totally on this island by ourselves,
Right.
but because our leader perhaps wasn't as integrated. That's part of why we were relegated to the island.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
and we could feel that, like we
Mhm.
knew that there were undercurrents of what that meant for relationships and how we did work because of that.
Yeah. I mean, everyone on the team can feel it. Right. And it makes your job harder if that integration is not there.
Hmm. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that when we talk about being an integrated leader, it doesn't mean, right, like that every day you need to be working on this relationship and working on that relationship, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. And because we all have regular jobs to do, right? But you really want to be intentional on how often you're meeting with people outside of your organization. Maybe if you're in a facility and you're responsible and you have line responsibilities, maybe it is an everyday thing that you go down
Mhm.
to the line and you're talking with people that support your same area that's in other functions and you're saying hello. You're asking them about their day, but you have targeted conversations on program rollout or what issues are you having here, and show me a specific check that you're doing, whatever it happens to be. Maybe that is a daily touch base, but maybe you're meeting with your finance lead once a month, or you're meeting with a finance director once a quarter, but you are on their calendar, that meeting's coming up, and again you're learning about what they're doing, what their priorities are, and then how it impacts your organization or your team. Because like Nikita said, like we cross so many functions, and there hasn't been a function yet that I don't think that I've ever touched base with in food safety and quality. I've touched finance, marketing, sales, like HR, all the above. And so it's important for us to understand how they work and how we can
Mhm.
help support them, how they can help support us, and be an integrated leader with them. So, how often depends on your role and how far away you are from them. But it needs to be intentional, and it needs to be something that's on your calendar,
Mhm.
that's on their calendar, to connect at a frequency.
Yeah, and it'd be great to know from the audience, like, what type of relationships like this have you fostered that many maybe wouldn't have, or
Mm.
that you found like it was so valuable and it was just like filled your cup to be able to do that? And the
Oh,
reason I
yes.
bring that up is because it wasn't until, once again, a couple years into my career working more with recalls and across the facilities, but I found it hugely valuable, not just professionally, but personally too, that I really connected a lot with our marketing communications team.
Mm-hmm.
And that really initially was because of kind of the external communication the group was doing on behalf for communicating perhaps to our customers related to food safety and quality. But what it turned into was they were a huge advocate to support us, just the internal messaging around food safety and quality and how
Mm.
to, I don't want to say campaign it, but they helped us put a focus on what that looked like to be consistent across our facilities. And that was really that was a big turning point, I think, in our journey of food safety culture.
Yeah, and that's such a great example from a food safety to marketing standpoint, because
Mhm.
people don't think about that. But we are a big piece around communications
Mhm.
externally, internally. For me, I did a lot of copy review where
Mhm.
I noticed that we were going to roll with some language, it's funny. I was looking at it and I'm like, this word is trademarked. We can't call our product this. And that started a whole conversation around like reviewing copy and making
Mhm.
sure that we don't have that type of risk. But if I never integrated myself into that organization, I would have probably seen it on the shelf, or whenever we printed packaging and I was reading through it.
Mhm.
So I mean, that's just really great examples. I was talking to someone in the audience a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking about how I was integrated with account management and finance. And the big thing for me at this particular time is that we were looking to figure out what's an easy way for us to collect refunds on quality defects from our suppliers. And we didn't have a great process for it built in with our finance team, right? And so I worked with our account managers to understand, how do we typically collect refunds? How will we typically get funds to flow back to us? What information do you need? Do you need me at all? Maybe it's something where I just need to let you know and you handle the transaction. Again, if I wasn't integrated into the work that they do, we wouldn't have been able to have those conversations and set up a good process in order to get that done, which we care about on the quality side, right? Because it's really an opportunity for us, again, to be business partners, that we're saying if something's not right, we figure out something that's not right, that we're going back and recuperating those funds. That's ultimately great from a business standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think, we focus a lot kind of on the internal relationships we can have, but I think doesn't this also apply externally? Mm-hmm. Because even within our community, whether it's our food safety quality community or others, like what fits for us? Because we know it's not a one size fits all, right? Yeah. And so what feels good for me to be an integrated leader might be different for Tia versus someone else. Right. And I hope it is. Otherwise, we'd all be trying to do the same things.
Right. Exactly.
But there are other places too that we can even flow this into. So, Stephanie's here. So Stephanie, Tia, and I talk a lot about like IAFP, but there's other functions that we also can kind of extend to be a leader there as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, when we talk about being leaders from a social standpoint, what you do in your community, and how you impact your community even outside of the company shows your leadership, right? Not just in the community, right? Like, you're showing your leadership there, but you're also acquiring skills to talk to other people that don't know what you do, that don't understand your job, that might not understand how we make food, right? You're figuring out how to have those communications with other people that will help you have those communications with people inside of the organizations that don't fully understand what you do, don't understand the importance of a program rollout, and so forth. So it's one of those things, like we always talk about when something new comes up, is to practice, right? Practice having those conversations, even with a mentor, or writing out something like, what would you say in a situation, and practicing that even with yourself. Being in an organization outside of your company helps you practice those leadership skills in an environment that's not affecting your performance appraisal, right? Mm-hmm. That's not affecting your pay. It's volunteer work, and people appreciate it. But it's a way to practice. And I know I've done that in my career. It's a way for me to practice public speaking. It's a way for me to practice presenting. I used all of that to build those skills outside of the organization, so I can bring it back in. And when it's time for me to present on something, I'm ready because I've done it before.
Which I think is really an interesting perspective, because there are some companies that really don't offer as many opportunities to kind of extend beyond your role, to be an integrated leader, or even to be able to practice that. And so I think that's a really powerful way to be able to step into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, that kind of runs us into, the barriers of being an integrated leader, because a lot of things, like when we've talked about, like connecting with other people and getting on the calendars and doing all this extracurricular.
Calendar has lots of free time to be able to get on someone's calendar, right?
Right, exactly. Like we are stressed. Our calendars are stressed. We have a lot going on, and a lot of times we feel like we're just treading water. We're trying to keep our head above the water. We're trying to do, our top priorities. And like you said, sometimes companies don't offer these or even value extracurricular activities. So, we wanted to have a discussion also on like what barriers you see and how you can help overcome them. And one of them is around workload capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We're advocates of, we're still like food safety nerds at heart, and there still is data. And, I'm sorry, T, I'm bringing up the engineering part too, right? Like we
I
still,
love it.
well, we do, but that's because we know, right, the things that we are able to see are the things that we can then have informative decisions about.
Right.
So when we do something like a workload capacity and standard work, that really helps us understand, well, where is all my time going? Where have I made these commitments? And are these commitments aligned with my priorities?
Right. Yeah.
So
It's priorities of the company, but it's
Mhm.
also priorities on what type of leader do you want to be. This was something that I didn't think about early on in my career, but as I was looking at moving organizations and moving to a different area and learning something new. I really took the time to think through, okay, what kind of leader do I want to be? What type of experience do I want to get? And I had to think about my priorities around that and how to balance my workload to make sure I'm getting that type of experience. And that might mean saying no to some things, right? And saying like, I don't have room on my calendar for that, or having conversations with your manager on, okay, I have a lot of priorities. I'm only one person. How do I get this down to 2 priorities this year? Because like sometimes there's like 10 priorities and it's like, okay, once there's 10 things on the list, nothing's really a priority, right?
Yes. We used to laugh because we would have a priority and then someone would say, yeah, but this is a 1-star priority. And I'm like, okay, so we're just going to now categorize from an A priority, like above an A now?
Right.
Like we need to rethink how that's looking, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a really good topic for for the future, but it's something for you to think about as you're looking to be an integrated leader is, what does your calendar look like?
Yeah.
And what are some things that you can take off of your priority list through delegation even? If you have a team and you're deep into the weeds and those are the type of meetings that you're having, you should be delegating those things because you should be helping your team grow. They should be also working on becoming integrated leaders, building those technical skills, building those leadership skills and presentation skills and talking about difficult situations. It doesn't have to be you all the time doing that. So that's one way to kind of get your workload down is delegation, understanding your priorities, taking some priorities off your list. And then realizing that, you cannot get everything done. You're one person. And this was hard for me. I don't know about you, Jill, but this was so hard for me when, I was in a role and I found myself being the only food safety and quality resource for a growing organization. And it's like all these things, you want to do. And you see so many, like, we see a lot of risk, right? And we just want to close those gaps. We want to eliminate the risk. I really had to have conversations with myself on, Tia, you are one person. Like, you cannot get everything done. What are the top 2 priorities you want to get done from a food safety and quality standpoint? What are the top 2 priorities that you want to help with that other functions are doing? And then you need to stop, and if something comes up, then you can be flexible and you can shift. But like, there's no way one person can get everything done that's required for a team of 5 or a team of 10 even, right? So think about that for yourself and say, am I trying to get everything done when we really just don't have the right resources for it?
Yeah. And, I find it funny because Tia and we even talked about this yesterday. We were just talking about some things that we're working on. And, when you look at projects, usually we have like, right, all these balls in the air. We're juggling all these projects that we're trying to, maybe get done in the next 6 months or the next year. And really like shifting how we look at that to say, which one can I get done and start kind of reaping the benefits.
Right.
And then and I might have one in the works, but then get to the next one done. So that way I can get those, reap those benefits.
Right.
But those are the same things that we work on as integrated leaders as well, to say, how do we integrate with others so that we can get those, get things done, and everybody gets to benefit in, having that accomplished.
Right,
So,
exactly. And taking a
yeah.
look at, one time I had a priority project where I was responsible for our sanitation budget, and I needed to get our chemical spend down. Well, I really took that opportunity to really connect with my finance person. So I'm integrating. I have a priority project. It's an opportunity for me to connect with finance and my finance people. And so now, instead of meeting with them once a quarter, now it's a priority for me to meet with them, once a month to talk through our chemical spend and what we're doing to help correct or decrease that spend.
Mhm.
So for me, that was an opportunity to integrate myself there, because it fits with the priority that I was doing. And then, I was working on a site that had two plants. So even from the sense of like, I'm responsible for my side of the plant, I'm integrating with finance there. But what is the other side doing?
Mhm.
So that's an opportunity for me to integrate there and talk to my counterpart over there. I'm like, well, what are you guys doing about chemical spin? And do you have opportunities here? And can we share best practices across both of the sites? So, that's an opportunity for me to integrate myself and kind of strengthen my integrated leadership due to a priority project that I had going on. So I was intentional about that and use my priority time to do that because I know it's going to help me in the future, right?
Which I think is an important aspect too, because right, your personal values are about collaborating and the support
Mm-hmm.
that really kind of helps support your professional values.
Right.
But I think that's also important when we think about organizations, because so many organizations now are looking at how can they be more values driven. And so when we think about how integrated leadership fits in with that,
Yeah.
how can you look at what values your organization has to say, is it explicit that this is an area that we do want to make a priority because it is a value?
Yeah.
Or is it something that we need to honor differently or better? And how can I help with that?
Yeah.
And if it's not, is that a conversation to have to talk about like what could that look like and how could it benefit? Because really it's benefiting everybody.
Right, exactly. And sometimes companies or managers don't understand that until they see an example.
Mhm.
And when we talk about, food safety culture change starts with you, this
Mhm.
could start with you. You don't have
Mhm.
to be the chief food safety and quality officer of the organization. It can really start with you and where you are prioritizing integrated leadership, getting
Mhm.
things done because you are integrated, and then having those conversations with your managers and other managers in the organization, right? Because now you're integrated. Have those conversations around, oh, I rolled out this program. This is why it was so successful, is because I had relationships with people in maintenance, engineering, sales, whatever it
Mhm.
happens to be. And so that's why it was more successful than other projects that we've rolled out in the past. Then people are like, oh, that makes sense. We were able to roll out a program in 3 months versus last time we did this, it took us 8 months to roll out. So that right there is just a cost savings from,
Mhm.
people's time for the business. So those things will catch on. But it's starting with you on how again, what type of leader do you want to be? What type of impact do you want to make? And you have to make sure you're doing that intentionally.
Mhm. Well, and I think that's a really big point because, right, once again, we come across so many different areas. And I think of all the times I've been like, oh, I wish someone would do something about that.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, even with my kids, I'm like, every time you say, I wish someone, I want you just to stop and go, that someone is me.
Mm-hmm.
So doesn't mean you have to carry it all the way through, but what are the parts that you can do and how can you step into that ownership so that you can be the leader that you want to be and add value to the organization and value for your team. So
Absolutely.
because I think that when as we talked more and more about integrated leadership and understanding that, to me it's really about that kind of leaning in and standing up and being proactive, because right? It's all at the end of the day, we all just want to make a difference. And we
Mhm.
want to feel that we want to feel that what we're doing is valuable. So when we do that and share it with others and we show them that we do value them, you know, that all comes back around.
Right.
That's what creates kind of that magic that makes when you've had those experiences and you're like, that was the best team, or
Yeah.
that was the best company, or that was the best facility, or that was the best whatever. That's part of
Right.
that magic because of all of those parts coming together.
Right, exactly. And someone has been intentional
Mhm.
about creating that environment. And I
Mhm.
love, Jill, but this is going to be a topic in the future, by the way. But passive versus active leadership.
Mhm.
And you always talk about this, and I mean, it resonates so much with me in being an integrated leader, because you cannot be an integrated leader and really have a passive leadership style. In order for you to be integrated into a space, you have to actively insert yourself there. You have to actively ask questions about a different group. You have to actively set up time with someone, or actively
Mhm.
go out and look for opportunities. Because otherwise they're not going to get done. You're always going to be thinking about, well, I wish someone would come and talk to me about this, or I wish
Someone,
someone would.
there's that someone again.
Exactly, exactly. It's so important to be active, and to practice this active leadership.
Yeah. And I that to me that was a game changer because I remember when we had first started, let's say like on our SQF journey, and we were writing all kinds of programs and documents. I mean, that was way back in the early years. And I think about how it could have been so different with just being more intentional and being an integrated leader because we had awesome programs. And guess what? We were totally disappointed later when not everybody embraced them the way that we did.
Right. Yeah.
And granted, we all know that's a journey, but I think for me, that was kind of a total shift in my thinking about my role as a food safety quality leader. It wasn't just about putting the program together, right?
Right.
We, I don't want to say anybody can do that, but anybody can do that. It's really that magic of like, how do we integrate with people? How do
Mhm.
we find out what they need? How do we pull that together?
Right.
Those are the parts that help us really stand out as integrated leaders in the organization.
Absolutely. And I mean, that really could come down to whether or not our program is successful or not.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. And it starts with us, one step at a time.
Absolutely.
Mhm. And sometimes I think about it, and I share this on different things, but it's a good analogy is like a bank account, right? When you invest in people and you invest in other areas and you invest in leading in other areas, you're essentially kind of putting money in the bank,
Hmm.
right? It's growing in value. And that's part of that magic because, right, you're showing people that you value them. You're also kind of getting a bank with them. So at some point when you do need something, when you need support and you need help, like you've got that investment made. And so it does pay off for you, for the team, for everyone.
Absolutely. And, we have, you know, many examples of, because you built that relationship, because
Mhm.
you were integrated and you were able to deposit those coins in your bank, it turned out to be super helpful when you needed something, when a priority came up out of nowhere and you're like, man, I just need engineering to do this thing for me so that we can get it over the hump. And they know that you'll do the same for them.
Yeah.
So it's easier again to get those things across, because you built those relationships.
Hmm.
And then I will also say it adds tools to your toolbox, right? Where you might want to do a cross-functional role in the future, or you might find out that, wow, I'm super passionate about this other function and how it relates to food safety and quality, and I would love to do a role there. You wouldn't know that unless you have conversations with those individuals. But even, I told the story about helping the person with the warehouse management system.
Mhm.
That's a tool that I, have used even after my role there, where, I'm helping roll out software, or I'm helping people choose the type of software that they need to use. Because I'm like, it needs to do all these things because you're going to really love it. But then also it's connected to food safety and quality in this way. So, that's a tool in my toolbox that I'm able to use. And it's I always say, like, I know just enough to be dangerous. Just enough to be dangerous, just enough to have those conversations. And it's because of my integrated leadership and touching people that are great at their jobs and learning from them and really understanding how that interacts with food safety and quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think this has been great to talk about, once again, the integration, because it is somewhat about collaboration and relationship building, but it also goes a step further about that intentional nature of reaching out past kind of our normal circles and into some other spaces to also lead, learn, and contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. In integrated leadership, the main goal is really to influence across the organization so that food safety and quality is integrated within the organization. Because ultimately, us being those business partners is what's really leading to having a sustainable food safety and quality culture. And that's why we talk about integrated leadership here, because that is needed in order for you to build a sustainable food safety and quality culture.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know we're kind of winding down on time. And so before we go, one thing that I want to let everybody know is that next week, we're going to talk all about coaching, because coaching is a buzzword. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is coaching as defined by the International Coaching Federation, because it is very different than the like coaching we often see or receive or even give, especially at work, where we tend to be advice givers and answer finders. And so we're going to talk about kind of this pure coaching type definition and what that looks like with Jenny Antelak of Learning Journeys. And she's an amazing woman and an amazing coach. And so I'm excited to have her on the show with us next week.
Yes, yes. And in the meantime, please reach out to us. We always share our email, because we love to learn about what you all are doing. You guys have great topic ideas. So we definitely take those in. And, we're here to help you and in your company and really help you build the type of food safety and quality culture you need, from technical leadership, people leadership, growing those skills, and again, integrating those into your business. So we would love to hear from you. Send us an email because we love hearing your stories. We love hearing from you, and we're here for you.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us. We'll be back next Wednesday with Real Talk at noon Eastern, and we can't wait to see you.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.